Welcome everyone. Welcome to the last tasting of the Gamay box. We're gonna wrap it all up with this guy. You probably have seen if you've been drinking wine for a while and going to wine shops. You've probably seen this label before. It's pretty widely distributed, but 2018 Lieu Santa Maria Valley Gamay. Um, yeah. Uh, yeah, they don't make all that much, but they've been around. They've been in the game for a very, very long time. I remember working with this with their wines back in like 2012. So they've been making wine for some time. But here we are. Just a few announcements before we get into the wine. Next month's enrollment has been all wrapped up. It's all ready to go. In case you haven't heard, it's going to be Rioja month. So we got some classic example versus the modern style. There's a Rioja white that's thrown in there as well. So we're going to be tasting a lot of Tempranillo. And then for the white, we got some Viura with some Malvasia thrown in for blending. And then we have one varietal Garnacha. So a lot of people don't think of Rioja for Grenache, but there's quite a bit of Garnacha being grown there. Oftentimes it uses a blending grape along with the Tempranillo for the Riojas, the Tintos, the red wines. But time to time you come across a varietal 100% Garnacha, and that's what we have. And then uncharacteristic of me or 6 Foot Wine Club, just there's a bit of a exploration of oak aging in next month's wine because it's Tempranillo, it's a Rioja. It's all about kind of aging barrels and different barrel regimen and all of that. So we're gonna talk through all of that next week. Let's see. A few announcements. Next month's pickup, the next Tuesday is a pickup day. So for those of you who are in DC, your pickup day is next Tuesday. I haven't sent this out to you, Julia. I don't know, Kelly's on the call, but Kelly, Julia, your wines are ready to be picked up at Wolvo. So you can go there and pick it up anytime. Your Google Sheets have also been updated, so you're all good to go. So between now and next Tuesday, you can go and pick it up anytime. Last announcement is the wine prom. I haven't sent the email out. I'm about to. I'll probably do that after this tasting today, if not tomorrow. But wine prom is it has always been. It's the last Saturday of April. So this year it's going to be April 26th. So if you want to attend wine prom, mark your calendar, block off your day. I'll have more details for you. Location is TBD, catering is TBD, all of that is TBD, but just the date is set. So Saturday, April 26th is wine prom. So mark your calendar if you are planning on attending. And of course, anybody who's ever been part of 6 Foot Wine Club, your friends, family, anywhere else is always all welcome and invited to participate. So bring your neighbors, friends, coworkers, family, whoever you want. Last but not least, 6 Foot Wine Club is committed to donating 1% of Score's revenue to an organization whose mission statement aligns with our values every month. And this month, I have chosen Miriam's Kitchen. So if you want to see what they do or donate alongside 6 Foot Wine Club, that you can check out the chat box. The links are right there in the chat box. Any questions about any announcements, anything that I said before we get into the wine? Excellent. Hearing none, let's get into the wine. In case you were just joining us, we're wrapping it all up with this guy. If you have a different wine, then this is the last bottle of the month. So I don't know where you went wrong during the month, but this is what we're tasting. 2018 Lieu Santa Maria Valley Gamay is what we're tasting today. So last 3 weeks, we've been in France, and then for the last one, we're bringing it back stateside, and we're going to California. So let's look at the map. I don't need to show you where California is. I know we Americans are notoriously terrible with the geography, but I surely hope that you don't need to be shown where California is on the US. So I'm not going to do that. But within California here, so a lot of what we talk about when we talk about California is really North Coast, right? even within North Coast, we're talking about really these two places, Sonoma and Napa. And even within that, we're talking about Napa. Napa is, in terms of quantity and most likely also in terms of quality, is probably the most sought after, most redeemed, esteemed kind of a wine producing region in all of US. California alone makes more than 50% of US wines. And of the California wines, more than 50% comes from Napa. So Napa is a huge, huge player. Having said that, that's not where we are this week. We're going more south. So San Francisco is up here, right? Los Angeles is down here. If you go a little bit further up, this is a beautiful place called Santa Barbara. And then if you go a little bit further up from there, I know the resolution is really terrible, but this is Santa Maria Valley, this little area right here. So a little bit up from Santa Barbara before we got to Paso Robles is where we are, before San Luis Obispo. By the way, if you guys never been here, if you've never been to Central Coast, I highly recommend you go there. It is fucking beautiful. Also, wines are incredibly good, the wines that come from here. But as you can see, I mean, we're talking about basically a coast, as a name mentioned, Central Coast. Really, if you look at the entire coast of San Francisco, right? Central Coast is really, like, San Francisco is really in the center of California, right? But, you know, we Californians, we don't really count really this part, the north part of California, almost as if it's not California. So Central Coast comes on a little bit further south. So this is where we are. But Santa Maria Valley is where the fruit comes from. The winery, the Ludi winery, is actually in a town called Lompoc, which is just north of Santa Barbara. This is actually a huge industrial complex. If you see any small scale wineries from this region, the chances are they make their wines in Lompoc. It's a fascinating place. You go there, it's a bunch of warehouses, huge industrial complex, but there are like more than 50% of it are wineries. And there are all these kind of garages, people making very small amount of wines, and they all go there to make wine. So they get to basically make wine right next to each other. So there's a lot of knowledge being shared. There's a lot of kind of cooperative spaces being shared. So it's super cool. It's definitely a lot of young people, young natural winemakers have gone there for that reason, just wanted to kind of get some beautiful fruit from Central Coast, but also have the know-how and the help and the camaraderie of having other winemakers next to them. So again, not only is it beautiful and the wine's good, but it's a cool place to go visit. So if you ever get a chance to get out to California, don't just go to San Francisco and Los Angeles, go check out Santa Barbara and Central Coast. But all the fruit for this wine comes from Santa Maria Valley right here in Central Coast. It really is an amazing place to grow grapes. As you can imagine, this is right up against the coast in sunny coastline of California. So plenty of sunlight, plenty of UV rays and the warmth to ripen the grapes. It's never a problem to ripen the grapes here. If anything, maybe over ripening is the danger here, but you will never get like this green, herbaceous, underripe grapes. It just doesn't happen here. But the cool breeze, obviously just being right on the Pacific Ocean, all the breeze comes down. There's a current that runs through here called Humboldt Current. It's a very, very cold water that comes down from the Northern California and that flows down to south. And all that cold water brings in a breeze that's very cool. So it's not common. It's very common to see fog start rolling in this area. So in the morning, it's all foggy, kind of like Sonoma Coast, same thing as Sonoma Coast. It's very foggy. Sun comes out, clears all this fog. The grapes get plenty of sunlight and warmth, ripens during the day. And just after like lunchtime, starting like mid-afternoon, you start to see the fog roll back in, and then it completely cools down. There's about like 20 to 25 different degree difference in day to nighttime and on average. So quite a bit of a diurnal shift, right? We talked about diurnal shift, that geeky phrase that means a temperature difference between daytime and nighttime. The bigger the diurnal shift is, the better the wine's going to be, because you know all that warmth helps with the ripening of the grapes again, and then all that cooling effect at night makes it keep the natural acid in the wine. So it keeps it refreshing and vibrant, yet while developing all this concentration and flavors. So that's kind of what you get here. You get all that sunlight, but also cool breeze coming in from the Pacific Ocean that cools it down at night. But also this whole area, particularly Santa Maria and Santa Ynez Valley, this right here, as you can see, yeah, you can kind of see it on this map. There's a mountain range that runs down, up and down, right next to the east of there. So as you go from west to east, there's a various degrees of climate. There are very different kinds of climates that happen here. So on the left, you get all that Mediterranean climate, which means warm summer, mild winter, with the cooling effects of the Pacific Ocean happening, all the marine influence that's happening. But as you go more east, it gets intensely hotter, and going more inland, it just gets intensely hotter and gets more desert-like. It becomes more arid. So imagine that, like if you're in a small, like this is not that big of a place, but just from within Santa Maria going from west to east, you get this Pacific Ocean influence on the west, and then this hot and dry place on the east. And then there's this mountains, which means there's all these different slopes and the elevations and expositions. So it makes for a really fun place to explore because of all these different microclimates and different terroir, different sense of place that the wines could be made in. So yeah, highly recommend. It's definitely one of my favorite regions in California, and highly recommend that you guys check out Central Coast if this is your first time being exposed to Central Coast wine. Let's talk about who makes this wine. It's a partnership that started in 2011. So again, they've been around for some time now. I mean, it's also funny to say, you know, right here in the States, we say they've been around since 2011, and we say they've been around for a while. But, you know, in the grand spectrum of things, 2011, that 14 years is nothing in the wine world, right? But anyways, it's a partnership started in 2011 between two longtime friends, Eric Railsback, which is this guy, and then Justin Willett, who is this guy. So longtime best friends. Eric on the first one, in case this face looks a little bit familiar to you. If you ever seen Psalm, the documentary, the first one, Eric actually makes an appearance in that movie. But anyways, he was a long-time restaurant Psalm. He was also lead Psalm in RN74, which was a Burgundy-focused wine bar in San Francisco, owned and run by none other than great Raja Par. But anyways, so he was a long-time restaurant Psalm, but then he started Lieu Wines with Justin. He handles a lot of the kind of business side of Lieu. He also is a partner in Verve Wine, which has multiple locations in New York and San Francisco. I think they got one in Austin, maybe Texas now too. But anyways, so another shop. He has another winery called Raisbeck Fair. So yeah, he's got his hands in a lot of different wine businesses, but he handles a lot of business side of Lieu. Justin, on the other hand, this guy is a Santa Barbara native. He's the actual chief winemaker and the day-to-day operational guy. He's like I mentioned, he's a Santa Barbara native who got into wine production after getting his undergrad degree at UC Santa Barbara. He did not get an enology degree. As far as I know, I don't think UC Santa Barbara even has an enology degree. But right afterwards, started working for different Central Coast wineries, going up and down, worked for some esteemed wineries. And then he started Lieu with Eric back in 2011. And then now he also, besides Lieu, he also consults for many different Central Coast wineries as well. Their whole kind of a background was that they used to just as a young, broke, 20-some-old dudes that were all into wine. They traveled together a lot to France and shared many bottles. But really, the bottles that left huge impressions on them were Loire Valley wines. Not only because they were delicious, but back in the days, I mean, we're talking about early, mid 2000s, maybe early 2000s. Loire wines were quite cheap. I mean, even now, Loire wines are, especially compared to like Burgundy and other places in France, is very, very much cheaper. But back then, Loire could be bought at a fraction of cost, even of what you can buy now. So those things really spoke to kind of a broke 20-year-old-something wine nerds like Eric and Justin. So when they came back to Santa Barbara, they decided that and also fascinated with all these microclimates that I was telling you about, and all the marine-based soils of Santa Barbara. they want to cultivate the varieties that are indigenous from the Loire Valley. So they focus on 4 grapes. So Sauvignon Blanc, Chenin Blanc, Gamay, and Cabernet Franc, which are all varieties that we see in Loire Valley. But I've also seen them make some Melon de Bourgogne, which is what Muscadet is made from. That comes out time to time, but it's not always available. But their biggest thing is definitely Sauvignon Blanc. So if you are looking for some kind of different expression of Central Coast, different Sauvignon Blanc from Central Coast, I definitely recommend that you check out Lieu. Very good. It's cool wine. In total, they may only make about 2,500 cases per year, so very, very small amount. But the whole focus is just quality rather than quantity. All about the minimum intervention, chemical-free farming, making just honest, balanced, lower alcohol wines, and then it's all about kind of purity of the fruit. So most of their wines, almost all of their wines, do not go through any. It's mostly all stainless steel tank because they just want to focus mostly on the fruit and nothing else. Some of the wines do see neutral barrel. If there's any wood on it, it's all neutral. But 90%, 90+% of the wines that they make are all basically stainless steel wines. So we're talking about very, very kind of a pure expression of the fruit, as well as all that kind of marine-based soil of Santa Barbara. And that's kind of like what I was trying to do with this wine this week, right? We did the first week with volcanic soil from Côte de Forest, and then we went out to granite soil in Loire, in Clisson, right? So we went from the deep, dark brewing effect of volcanic soil on Gamay. Then we went out to this bright, poppy, high acid kind of a wine from Clisson grown on granite. And then last week we went to Saint-Pourçant, where we saw Gamay grown on limestone and clay, probably some granite thrown in there as well, right? And then finally this week we had something completely different. We have complete different soil type here. So it does have some limestone, it does have some clay and all of that, but really we're talking about ancient kind of a marine creatures, basically oyster shells, fish bones, and all those things just decompose and then turn it into rocks, and then sand and clay over time. So yeah, ancient marine soil is what we have here. And then the expression of the wine changes completely. And I said this a little bit in the email, I alluded to this in the email. We'll talk more about this when we get to tasting that I sent out yesterday in the preview email. But there's something that is very different. Obviously, right, there's different factors here, right? We have some carbonic maceration that went into the second week as well as the first week. But then there's no carbonic on this thing. This is all stainless steel maceration method. Sure, there's some limestone here, just like we had last week. There's no granite here, but then the wine is completely different. So is it all because of soil, or is it because of different climate? I mean, all that is very debatable, right? Again, that's the difficult part of wine world, where you cannot do just like a really exact scientific experiment, so to speak, with all these terroirs. But to me, the expression of this wine is totally and completely different. And whether it is Gamay or Pinot, the wines that come from Central Coast, and even Sonoma Coast, which is a similar kind of a soil type, a similar climate as a Central Coast, the wines have these kind of a similar thread that run through it. So, my belief is that, soil type does make a difference, right? And we saw that. Volcanic to granite, it completely changed. But there are a lot of other factors that go into this concept of terroir, or sense of place, that we talk about, right? There's a climatic reasons. Is it much warmer? I mean, this is a much warmer place than it is in where we've been the last 3 weeks in France. It has a lot more sunlight, it has a lot more UV. There's that maritime influence, the cool breeze that comes in at nighttime daily, right? Longer growing season. And so there are all these different things that are that factor into the final style of the wine. And then how you make it, which is a human factor of it all as well. So all of that plays even bigger role than soil, if you ask me. More and more I learn about the concept of terroir and what finally results in this what influences the final style of the wine. To me, more and more I become convinced that it's actually the climate is the most important factor in all of that, rather than the soil, which is what we've been kind of taught and what we've been talking about for so long. Like we emphasize soil of the wine so much, but I am truly starting to think that the climate has much bigger role than the soil itself. But anyways, we'll talk more about that once we get to tasting it. But I just wanted to put it out there that we're in a completely different place in terms of climate, in terms of soil, and all that. Let's see. What is this wine? I could not find much technical information. That's the only down part. There's nothing available on the website. I sent an email. We didn't hear back. I sent the email to the distributor. They have any information. So they're going to reach out to them to see if they can get their information. We haven't heard back. But anyways, all I do know is that this is 100% organic Gamay grown on ancient marine soil, like I mentioned. There's some limestone as well as sand and clay loam available here. All native yeast. I do know that this is, I believe this is all stainless steel, 100% stainless steel. But if anything, it's a neutral barrel. But all unfiltered, unfined, sulfites. But outside of that, I couldn't get much more information on the technical side, the production side of it. So, but it is 100% Gamay, and that I do know for sure. Any questions before we get into tasting?
Wondering on the age, anything about it? Like 2018 for a Gamay seems a bit on the older side. Can you talk a little bit about that? What does that do?
As the wine gets older, a lot of the kind of the what we call primary fruits and aromas, they tend to change. So the fruit profile will change from like super fresh to sometimes it dries out like raisins or like figs or something like that. Sometimes it just changes completely as you go even further, ages even further, where the fruit profile becomes non-fruit. So we'll see things like, mushroom. We'll see things like cedar, leather, tobacco, things like that will pop up. So yeah, that could all happen. 2018, particularly for this winery in Gamay for Central Coast, you're right. It's one of the older ones I've seen, and I thought it was still drinking beautifully, and that's part of the reason I picked it. And also, I thought it was cool to talk about some of these kind of. I already see some tertiary peeking through. Tertiary is another word to say this is what happens to the wine when the wine has been aged in the bottle. It's got some bottle aging, so we will talk about that when we get there. But Gamay can age. I mean, we have Beaujolais that have been, we're pouring now from like early 1980s, and they're drinking beautifully. So it's not that Gamay cannot age, but it all depends on where it comes from and how good was that vintage. So yeah. Any other questions? Excellent. Let's taste the wine. Who wants to take the appearance? All right. Where you go? Come on, somebody.
Yeah, I'll do it. We'll do it.
Excellent.
Me and Vivian here.
Excellent.
We'll do it. All right. So let's take a look-see. It looks clear to me.
Yeah, this wine is clear.
I like how it looked down, but all the ways.
Yeah. I mean, you can tell, this wine is not filtered or refined, but for all the intents and purposes, I would still call this clear.
Yeah. In terms of intensity, I mean, I can I don't have a ton in my glass, so I can see through my fingers. So, I mean, I'd say like between pale and medium. It's not pale, obviously, but it's not super deep. So
yeah, exactly. I won't go anything more than medium. Yeah, I would call this like medium, maybe medium minus, something like that.
Not always white though, or not necessarily. Just like sidebar question, I guess.
Say that again.
Is pale doesn't always necessarily mean white though, right?
No. Okay. So with a white wine, because with red wine, because with white wine, regardless of the color, amount of color, intensity of the color, you'll always be able to see straight through it, unless it's very cloudy, right? and
Right.
turbid. But with the red wine, the way we talk about it is like if you can see the writing through the deepest core of the glass, then that's pale. If you see like you can make out that there's a writing back there, something behind there where you cannot like fully read it. That's like medium, and then deep is like when it's completely opaque, like you can't see anything. So it's basically how we define it. And red. Okay, color.
Color. Mine looks pretty ruby. I'd say ruby.
I will say ruby as well, but I will also mention there's a little bit of a brown starting to come in here. I start to see a little bit like an orange, like I see a little bit of like an amber starting to come in here, or a garnet. So it's like somewhere between ruby and garnet. I would not call this full on garnet yet, but it's like ruby with a flecks of garnet is what I would write on the exam if I was getting this. Any other observations?
No.
No. Yeah, I didn't get any.
Nope.
All right.
Yes, it's on the
You get
grid.
to pick the
Yeah,
next
I learned
person.
early.
You get to pick the next person for the nose.
Yeah, 100% picking Sada. Go for it. We love doing it. It's fun to do. Jump on in there, girl.
Thanks. And I'm joined by Marco, who's in California. He was a 1 month member, but it was too early in California.
It's fun to do it in pairs. So,
All right. To say it's clean.
Wine is clean. That's what it sounds.
For the intensity, medium. I feel like I get it like an inch.
I get it like here. What is
So-
that? Yeah, it's like somewhere between medium and medium plus. I would say
Okay, excellent.
like here. So yeah, being generous. I'm gonna call it medium plus, but if you call it medium, I think it's completely reasonable. Aroma is ooh. What do you get?
Let's see. I don't really get. Okay, actually, maybe a little rose petal or violet, maybe a little floral, like
Sure.
petal.
Yeah, maybe like a little bit of rose, but not super like a
Not a
super
lot.
floral. But yeah, perhaps you can convince me.
Most
Anything else?
like
Greens.
yeah, mostly the red and black.
Yeah. All right.
Then
Call it out.
Yeah. Okay.
let's see, like maybe like a red plum,
Yeah.
Cranberry. I think.
cranberry, some blueberry.
Blueberry. I don't get any blue here, but yeah, I mean, there's like to me, this is like all that red fruit they were talking about, but I do agree with you. I think there's some like black cherry, some of the like the black thing going on here, but in general, I get a lot more red fruit than a black fruit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that might be like the jamminess we're smelling, like a bit of that age coming through maybe on some
Yeah.
of the fruit.
Yeah.
That's what I'm picking up.
But yeah, ton of like red fruit to me. There's like red currant, cranberry, strawberry, red plum, all of that red fruit with touches of black cherry, there's a bramble kind of a thing going on here. But yeah, to me, the expression is much more red than it is black.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of like
Fig. I do feel like I do get some fig.
yeah, figs. Okay. Yeah. So call out some nature of the fruit.
So I feel like the red fruit taste smell that you're getting is a little fresher, but I do also smell some like fig or some like jamminess too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really ripe, like super ripe fruit here, right?
Yeah.
Almost like that jam, almost cooked down, kind of like a confectionery marmalade kind of a deal going on here. I do get fresh fruit as well, like you mentioned, like that raspberry, cranberry, all of that is really, really coming out strong for me. Okay, any herbaceous, any herbal, any green things?
Yeah, I do feel like there's a little something herbaceous.
I do too. I do get a little bit of like
Green
yeah, what
bell
do you get?
pepper, the green bell pepper kind of.
Yeah, there's a little bit of that like little pyrazine, which is a green bell pepper, something green going on here as well. But to me, it's not just like a unripe green. There's also something like a savory herbs. Like to me, there's some sort of like, again, this is not exact, but to me, it almost comes off as like a bay leaf, like tarragon, that kind of like herb
Green herbs.
thing.
Yeah, like herbs you cook with.
Yeah. Chervil, if you want to get like fucking fancy and French and shit, like that, like a little fennelly, licoricey, kind of like a baby licorice kind of a thing going on here. But yeah, there's definitely some level of like a savory thing going on here for sure. It's not just all fruit, which I appreciate. Any spices? Any rockiness? We got
I do feel like I have some like black pepper.
a little bit of pepper that turns into a pepper. Yeah. Okay. You can get beyond that. Any rocks here or earth?
Maybe a little wet rock.
Yeah, to me, it's not a rock. To me, this is like earth, like damp earth. Like when you go on like a hiking and then you get that like really wet, damp earth.
Yeah.
Yeah, like soil, like this wet ground. There's some of that going on here as well. All right. Any secondary and tertiary?
Well, you did tell us that. So, I don't really.
I don't know. I'd say a little
Almost like the
vanilla,
cooking
a little
spices.
clove,
Yeah.
like little RC cola vibe here. Little.
Yeah, I do get that cola, like a cola spice kind of or herb vibe for sure. For sure. I mean, this
like,
is where I do think
Yeah.
also just knowing wines from this region, you rarely ever get this just on its own. And then I see some of these tertiaries starting to peek through here. I mean, a lot of I think what we're identifying as green and vegetable and almost tobacco, right? This is kind of I think tying into our what is calling about tarragon and bay leaf, some of that like a green savory kind of a thing, herb thing.
Yeah.
Like some of this I do think is a tertiary starting to peek through on this wine, which is reasonable. I mean, it's 2018, right? It's 8 years old, 7 years old. And yeah, I get a lot of this thing. I get some of that wet earth, forest floor. I do get some of the mushroom, earth, tobacco, vegetable, this kind of savory kind of nature of it. It's all like that primary fruit kind of turning into some of this tertiary here, and then that cola savory thing. And that's kind of what I like about this is that there's not only this fruit, there's still fresh fruit left here, but there's all these kind of like a savory layers of complexity and tertiary that's starting to kick in here. Not only that, and then we'll talk more about this when we get to palate, but actually, I'll talk about it when we get there. But okay, anything else on the notes?
No, there's a lot going on, so I feel confident I missed something, but there is a lot.
There's a lot going on here for sure.
What somebody said Vietnamese rock candy? I don't know what that smells like though.
Like a sugar rock? Like a rock sugar?
I don't know. Joe said it. Vietnamese rock candy.
I don't know if that is either. Rock candy? Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. You get to pick the next person for the palette.
Let's go with Julia. Oh, sorry. You're writing. Sorry.
No, I love it. I also love a shout out to RC Cola. Like I'm into that anytime.
Yeah, I also love how there was a brand specific to it.
No,
like,
I know.
Coca-Cola,
There's
Pepsi,
a
RC Cola. Very OG. Dig it.
Yeah. I grew up in RC Cola. There was an RC Cola factory in my town.
I'm a big fan of RC Cola myself. So, yeah. All right, let's get to the palette, Julia.
Okay, this wine is dry.
Way to go, Dan.
Mm-hmm.
You've been super helpful.
Wine is dry. Acid.
It's a medium plus.
Really?
What do you think, Julia?
I mean, I guess it could be medium plus. This is where I get tricked on these. Right?
Yeah. No, I this is to me, this is somewhere between medium plus as well.
Yeah.
Like a high intermediate or intermediate plus. But it is to me the acid is not shy. I mean,
It's not shy. No, it's not like it's not that there's no acid, right? But I guess in this instance, I'm not sure if it's medium or medium plus.
yeah. I think I'm gonna call this medium right now, but it's definitely high end of medium, lower end of medium plus is what I would call this.
Okay.
Tanner.
It's like medium. It's a super smooth tannin. Like it doesn't rip against your lips or anything. Yeah.
Agreed. It's very dissolved at this point, right? It's kind of integrated, really like really fine grain tannin. Yeah, I'll call this like lower than medium, higher than medium minus. It's definitely there, but it is just so well integrated into the wine. It doesn't like stick out on itself. But yeah, definitely. Alcohol.
I guess medium.
Yeah. Percentage. I think this
like
is like 12.
like a 12.
Yeah.
Yeah.
12 and a half.
Yeah, it's 12% on the label. So yeah, that will put us right in medium. Body.
I'm not good at this.
You know, we are not team lactose-based measurements.
Milk.
Feels not heavy though. Like
No,
medium
it's pretty
minus.
light. I mean,
Yeah, I'll call this about medium minus 2.
yeah.
So, most of what I have to talk about, obviously, flavor intensity.
It's lovely. It's nice. It's a medium plus.
Yeah.
Agreed. I'm gonna call
Yeah.
this medium plus as well. It's very expressive.
Yeah.
My wine is opening up even more now. So yeah, I think it just needed time. But still not as expressive as I remember this. But yeah, but I still would call this a medium plus for sure.
Yeah. No, it's got a punch. Like.
Yeah. Do you agree with all the things?
The red berries.
Yeah, I definitely get the black pepper call out. I get
Little spice,
herbal.
yeah.
Yeah, I
Little
get
peppery.
herbal on
Really?
Cool.
there.
RC Cola, obviously, we mentioned that.
Yeah. If anybody incepts RC Cola on me, I will just be like, yep.
Sauvignon Blanc has RC Cola. Yep.
Exactly.
Got it. Absolutely.
In the Basque Country, they have a really gross drink where they mix Coke and Rioja called Calimocho. This is exactly like that. It's
all right.
And then what were like the secondary and tertiary things she called out? I forget.
There's like the savory things. Like I think there is like, but I think that's still.
Yeah, they call it some cloves and some other things there.
But I think that's more of like kind of this like peppery or like.
Yeah, like a white pepper, black pepper.
Or like maybe like a sage.
Yeah, exactly. To me, it's that like sage, that whole, I almost said sage, but like sage, bay leaf, like that whole.
Yeah, I only get it like way in the aftertaste, but I can get it. Yeah.
For sure. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot going on here. Like a lot of that red fruit that they mentioned, like absolutely currant, strawberry to me, red cherry, red plum, black cherry for sure.
Yeah.
There's some dry fruit as well as a fresh fruit. There's some like cooked marmalade fruit as well, many different things. Some herbaceous things that would come down, herbs, sage, bay leaf, tarragon, all that, touch of pepper. To me, and again, on top of that, like to me, it's not so much of secondary here. I start to get this red here. I get some mushroom here. I get some of that wet earth.
Oh,
Yeah. I feel like I get a bit of that on the nose and not necessarily on the palate.
Okay.
I mean, if I was looking for it, I could get it on the palate, but that's not where. But again, this is why you're the sommelier, Boone.
No, I mean to me,
again, we are looking for new careers now. So.
Well, we'll talk. But yeah, this earth, mushroom, this a little tobacco-y. Again, this could be what we're calling a sage, bay and all of that. But it could be like this tobacco. But there's definitely some of these like the fruit character has turned. And again, knowing what the wines, like fresh wines from this region taste like, you don't often get this. So, you know,
Yeah.
it's not that it's the place that produces these flavors, like, you know, very earthy and savory flavors, the bottle age for sure. So yeah, I'm definitely getting some of this savory, kind of like tobacco-y vegetable, but also forest floor and all that coming through here. And this is what I was actually going to talk about on the nose, and I said I'll talk more about this on the palate because we haven't really talked about this. But when I first tasted this wine, there's this immediate kind of, and you may think I'm crazy, and maybe this is the mushroom that's coming through that I'm thinking about, but like I get umami on this wine. There's certain like savory umami character about this wine. There's really bright poppy fruit here, but there's this like underlying very like similar kind of that like savory umami thing that you get on mushrooms or like, you know, sun-dried tomatoes and things like that. And I get that similar thing on this wine. I don't know.
I can see that. I also feel like we're currently eating a very umami soup. So,
Okay.
so it's
Yeah.
like hard to tell, but like I do again, like I feel like it's not in the like it's not in the front, it's in the back, like it's in
Yeah.
that
Oh, 100%. Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, this is still tertiary just start to peek through.
Yeah.
To me, this is still very much in the primary. But the fact that, you know, it's what, 7 years old and it's
Yeah.
just starting to show some of this
Yeah.
tertiary tells me that this has still got a few years left, more leg room. But yeah, like all this is starting to peek through, and I think it's just in a really beautiful like drinking window right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Length. How long is the finish?
It's like medium to medium plus.
Yeah, it's not super long, but like this is like lower end of medium plus, high end of medium, somewhere in there
Yeah.
for me.
It doesn't disappear, like it's
yeah.
there, but it's yeah.
And to me, it's like the evolving thing, right? We get hit with all that fresh fruit, and then you get
Right.
tertiary, and then you get all this savory umami thing that kind of lingers.
I
through.
don't need all my wines to have length. Like that's not,
Right. Not everything has to.
versatile.
Yeah, it's like somewhere between medium plus. I do think as I leave this open a little bit longer, maybe you get a little more length. But right now, it's somewhere in the medium plus, and being generous, I'm gonna call this medium plus. But if you call this medium, I think it's good. Perfectly reasonable. All right, take it home for us. How good is this wine, and would you age it?
It is
It is
good to very good.
Right. Is it balanced?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Concentration wise, we called it what? Medium plus on the nose, medium plus on the palate. So very good concentration. Complexity.
Very complex.
Well,
Yeah.
For at least for this wine club,
Yes.
like it's very complex,
Yeah.
right?
Right. It's more complex than a lot of the wines that we've featured.
fair.
I think it's definitely the most complex one out of the four that we featured this
the
month.
Gamay series. Okay.
Yeah, we got a bunch of the primary, right?
Yeah.
The fruit quality is different. We got dry, we got gem, we got fresh, we got herb, savory, and then we tertiary start to peek through. So what we're gonna call that medium plus? Yeah. So medium plus, umami, earth, all of that. And then finally the finish, we called it between medium and medium plus. Again, being generous, we'll call it medium plus. So going all the way across, so we're landing somewhere between, I mean, if you have to pick all of it, medium to medium plus, but I think it's closer to medium plus than it is to medium. So
Yeah,
I'm
I'd
gonna
say
call
it's
this very
very
good.
I mean, it's delicious. Like, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, totally. Exactly. And that's the thing about this wine that I really love, that, you know, even if you didn't really give a shit about wine and whatnot, I think just this is delicious. I think this is just goes out so easy. It pairs with a lot of different kinds of food. But if you were a wine nerd and wanted to really like break down the wine, this is something that you can go back and over again, trying to like pick out different things and what's happening here, which is super fun. Would you age this?
I mean, you know, I wouldn't because you know how I feel.
It's not that you wouldn't, you can't.
But like, I would like accidentally age it and then I would age it too long, and then I'd like
Yeah.
would have an anxiety attack about it.
I mean, I think we've already mentioned that it would be interesting to lay it down for a few more years and see where it goes, right? Like the tertiary flavors are just starting to pop up, so you
Yeah.
see in a couple years what.
But it's also delicious now.
Yeah, agree. I think this is delicious. I think it's drinking beautifully right now, I think.
Yeah.
But if you wanted to put it down to see how much further it can go, I think there's a lot more tertiary that's going to pop up. This wine's going to become more savory and even more complex. But we'll probably lose some of that primary starting to fall off. Like we're doing this, inverse proportional act kind of a thing.
I know. Just wine gambling makes me so nervous.
Yeah, so I wouldn't say I wouldn't go too much longer. I think this is gonna hit its like peak drinking in probably 2 years, 2 to 3 years, I would say. More tertiary will come on, still holding on to primary, both of them just kind of at a perfect balance. And then once you go beyond that, you'll probably see a lot more tertiary pop up and start losing the freshness of the wine and starts, be on the back end of that wine. So I would say drink it now. It's drinking beautifully now, but enjoy it for between now for the next 2 to 3 years is what I would say.
So, Un, question for you, which would probably come up in the general Q&A, but so I was surprised that this is like a California Gamay. And mostly because like it's like there's Pinot Noirs and that's the thing. Like, is this a trend or like in California, or like is it hard, like is it partially because it's like, oh, we've always made Pinot Noirs and now everybody is like over Pinots, but like they still like Pinots, except they just like to call them Gamays, and so we're doing Gamay. Like I'm unfamiliar with the California Gamay markets. And I guess that's sort of my question.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair question. I don't think the California Pinot is going to go away anytime soon. I think there will always be market for California Pinot, particularly Sonoma Pinot. I think they got such a strong market hold, and I don't think that's going soon. Now, is California Gamay becoming a thing? Gamay has always been grown in California. It's just that it's always taken kind of a backseat to Pinot Noir because Pinot Noir just blew up and it just became so big. I'm willing to bet, I don't know this for a fact, so fact check me if you guys want to, but I'm willing to bet that there's more Gamay grown in California than in Oregon. And Oregon is what we know of as like a Gamay in US, right? That's where the Gamay is really grown. But there's still, in terms of quantity of Gamay being grown, I bet there's more Gamay being grown in California than in Oregon. It's just that in Oregon, there's certain parts of Oregon particularly where they've really kind of branded themselves and they've really kind of built their reputation on being like outliers and trying like different things. So even though their Pinot is really brilliant and like they have Willamette Pinot, right, which is known all over the country and all over the world, particularly also, but there are pockets of places within Oregon that are really experimenting with Alsatian varieties, Loire varieties, and things like that, and making their identity around that. And I think they've been very successful at it. I welcome that. But here in California, it's just that like Pinot in California is such a behemoth. I mean, like Cabernet Sauvignon, Pinot Noir, and Chardonnay rule the game. I mean, there's such a big game in California that it's almost hard for any of the varieties to compete against. Is what I would say. But Gamay has always been grown in California. You can always find Gamay in California. It's kind of like almost like a lot of Italian varieties. People don't know that there's a lot of like Tempranillo, a lot of Sangiovese grown in California, but like you don't really think about that because all the Italian immigrant background, a lot of Spanish varieties also grown there because also obviously colonizer background, but we don't really talk about that because again, there's those French varieties that have just really dominated the game for so long. Any other questions?
Wondering, is Gamay easier to grow than Pinot Noir? Would you say? Like everyone talks about Pinot being a very delicate grape. Like, tell me about Gamay. Is it also in that?
Absolutely. Yeah, so Gamay is a little bit thicker skin, which means they're less fickle. They're less perceptible to like temperature variance and all of that. And it's also later budding than the Pinot Noir. So it can withstand a longer growing season. So yeah, a little bit hardier. Is it as hardy as things like, I don't know, Mourvedre, for example? Like that shit can grow anywhere. Like, but compared to Pinot, yeah, it's less fickle, for sure. Any other questions? What do you guys think about this one?
I have a question first. Why is this wine not as dark as the 3 Gamays that we've already tasted?
You mean in terms of color or in terms of flavor?
In terms of color, yes.
I think there are a couple things at play here. Again, without the technical information, without the production data, I don't know how long they kept this on the skins. So it could have had a shorter maceration period. This definitely did not go through carbonic, right? So that's not the reason. So it just probably went through a shorter skin contact, and they just kind of pressed it off the skins and then let the juice continue to ferment. So that could be one possible explanation. Second possible explanation, which is less likely that it would have made this much difference in 7 years, but as the wines age, red wines age, the color pigment does drop out. So that it does become a little bit lighter. So, but I highly doubt that that's what's taking place here. It does have 7 years of age on it, but that's another possible thing, that it does have a little bit of age on it. But if I was a betting man, I'll bet my money on the first one, that it was just a shorter maceration. Any other questions? Yeah, did anybody not like this one, just out of curiosity? I love this wine. It's just like, to me, this is like a crowd pleaser. Like, how do you not like this wine?
Yeah, I think for me, like this, I thought it was a little bland at first, but I decanted it at 8:30, like exactly, and now it's like really kind of opening up and getting a lot more interesting.
Yeah, if you all haven't decanted your wine, I recommend that you decant. I am having a similar experience. I opened mine earlier, but I didn't decant it. I just popped the cork and left it there since 6:30. But it's opening up a lot more now. Each new pour that I put into my glass is just like way more expressive. So if you haven't decanted your wine, I recommend that you do. Also, like I mentioned, when I first got the sample bottle for this wine, I drank it over 2 days, 3 days. And then my favorite was at the second day. So check it tomorrow if you are not decanting it all today. Any other questions?
I think I still liked it when I first opened it, and I'm wondering what is wrong with my palate.
No, I don't think there's anything wrong with your palate. I do think there's a bit of a bottle variation here. The bottle that I have today is a completely different bottle than the sample bottle that I got.
Okay.
So I do think there's some bottle variation that's happening with these guys. Or it could be that, oh, well, I mean, if you were talking about, because I was going to say maybe it's a biodynamic calendar, but then all of our wines would be tasting the same way if that was the reason. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We were like, if today was like a root day, and then like there's not a fruit popping up, and everybody would be like tasting just savory. But you were saying your wine's tasting expressive, so maybe not. Any other questions? Now, before we get to everybody's favorite part of guessing the price, which one? No, actually, let's do the price and then we'll come back to it. How much do you think this wine is on a retail shelf? How much would you be happy paying for this on a retail shelf? I mean, it's got some age, right? 7 years. It is from California, which is never like cheap. I mean, unless you're talking about like Central California, $2 chuck. But it is not Pinot Noir, Cabernet, or Chardonnay. Just Gamay. Well made, we called it very good. It's got tertiary, it's been aged. So yeah, what do you think? How much do you think this is? 30, 30, 27, 27, 32, 33, 26, 30, 27, 24, 28, 35, 35, 32, 40. Okay. And the winner, or nobody got it right on the dot, but closest one is Norris. This would be $34 in retail. I mean, for 7-year-old, you know, tertiary wine, showing wine. Yeah, I mean, you may think California Gamay, who wants to pay that much? That seems expensive, but again, it's well made, it's aged at the cellar. They just released this. I mean, it's I think it's a fair price. It's a very, very reasonably priced wine for
So coming from the Santa Barbara area, that's where I'm coming from, guys.
Okay.
Like, it's hard to find wines under $33 in the region. Like, I'm gonna throw that out there. Most of it is Pinot Noir, so you know, usually you're paying for the premium there, but yeah, like $33 is like pretty standard, I'd say. From
He also said he never sees this one.
yeah, like this is not one that's on the shelves, easy to find type of deal.
Okay. All right. I mean, so I might have gotten, actually, when I said it earlier that you might have seen this on a retail shelf, I wrong. They actually made a point to do it all on restaurants. So they only want to pour it in restaurants. They don't want to sell it in retail stores. So this is like I saw it a lot in restaurants because I haven't worked in restaurants, but yeah, it's not retail stores. So that makes sense.
So would that run about $60 to $70 at a restaurant?
This would come out to, yeah, about $60, $65, $70, yeah, 65, $70 per bottle. I don't know. I'd be stoked to drink this for 65, $70 in a restaurant. No. Absolutely. But yeah, check it out. If this is your first time coming on some Ludi, I've always been a big fan of them. So check out their wines. Any other questions?
You were gonna ask us which was our favorite of the month.
Damn. Damn.
It's almost like I know you, Un.
Yeah, what?
Yeah.
What? It's almost a year. Yeah, which one of the wines this month was your favorite? I'd love to hear why. And then was there anything that like didn't, or you absolutely hated or did not like? Also, why? And also, love to hear, I mean, I kind of asked this last week as well, but the kind of like the concept of this this month, right? Like we did a horizontal tasting, it's much nerdier, geekier. It's the same grape. It's a very similar, not I won't say similar style because they're all very different, but like, you know, we're talking about the same thing, but like in 4 different places. So getting kind of geeky and nerdy like that as opposed to doing an overview of like a sub-region or region in the world. How do you guys feel about that as well? So yeah, just overall feedback of this month.
And I'll start. I thought this was like a really fun month and really awesome. I thought it was really interesting. So I recommend doing something like this again. I thought it was like a lot of fun.
Okay. Anyone else?
Thumbs up to geeky. I think we're geeky people, Un. I think we can handle it.
We call
Okay.
these
Yeah, you've been around the world for 4 or 5 years now. I've lost track. You can kind of, you know, mix it up a bit.
Yeah. Okay. David, were you going to say something?
Yeah, we would call these vertical tastings where it's like one grape, different preparations, or
Horizontal.
horizontal.
Vertical would be different vintages.
Vertical, horizontal, which is it? I don't know. Yeah, I think it'd be interesting to try, you know, same grape, same region, different treatments, some barreled, some not. Like it would be kind of interesting to see the effect of different approaches to creating this, you know, but trying to keep one or a couple factors fixed and just vary one of them. That'd be neat.
Yeah, I was thinking earlier today before we started, like Chardonnay would be a great one.
Yeah, I love that you say it, Julia, because this I already said last week. Last week, I was like, I'm honestly thinking about doing a Chardonnay box just to piss off so many of you. But I think it'd be a fun box, just to kind of.
I will
To me, there's no other grape variety.
Wine Club has turned me on to Chardonnays that I would never have known. And I'm much more open-minded about Chardonnays these days. But it's like you just have to be careful. You got to be careful.
Yeah, absolutely. And I probably won't throw in like a oak Chardonnay in there anyway, because you can't find that shit.
You know you will. You know you will. There's gonna be one.
You have to. You have to do one.
Chardonnay, but still somehow was like not buttery and like tastes nice and like.
I'm just waiting for the oakiest New World Oak Rioja that's gonna come in our box next week.
Yeah, no.
You
not doing
specifically have said that you love it. You have said I'm a whore for traditional Rioja.
I mean, I am, but that was another thing. So I'll talk more about this next month, obviously. But I was actually blown away, but also kind of annoyed by like all the different Riojas that I tasted. Because one, I haven't done a systematic tasting of Rioja in I don't even know, 10 plus years. I just, I've never worked in a Spanish restaurant. Last time I worked in a big, wide-ranging wine program was Sonoma Wine Bar. So that's when I really tasted the Rioja. Since then, I just haven't done a Rioja tasting like that. But it's just like the Rioja kind of went through a similar thing as California, where there's very traditional old school Riojas, right? That a lot of American oak, vanilla, coconut dill, just round and voluptuous and big. That kind of old school, and I'm a slut for it, okay? And then that's that's where I can't tell my other South friends I love these things. They'll judge me. But I'm I fucking just love that stuff, But then there's a New World style, a more modern style, which is fresh fruit, less oak. They're getting away from oak, and then there's trying to build wines that are much more quote unquote balanced, elegant, and fresher and sharper, and all of that. So, and I love both of those things for different reasons, and I have a bottle each representing those things. But so many of the wines that I tasted were this in the middle. And then I said this exact same thing to all my sales reps. I was like, all these wines taste like fucking Gen Zs. To me, they're I'm just confused. It's they're the cool hipster ass Gen Zs that eat geriatric dinners at 5 and go to bed in bed by 9 p.m. and don't drink. It's I want them to be either the fucking crazy partiers or I want them to be grandmas. I don't want them to be just in the middle that are trying to be all hip and cool, but also go to bed by 9 p.m. I just don't get it. Why are they all made like this? So yeah, that was interesting. But so yeah, we'll see how next month goes.
All right, I have a question. Why is oak the only wood used for barrels? And what have people tried other wood types?
That's not true. They do use chestnut wood. They use acacia. Slovenia, Central Europe, Hungary, a lot of those places use a wood other than oak. But I think it's just because, honestly, France uses oak. It just became the big thing, and Spanish used oak. That became a big thing in the New World because Spanish brought it over from Spain, obviously. Yeah, I think it's just those two countries became kind of a traditional, fashionable thing. But yeah, there are other wood being used for sure.
I was surprised in this month how much difference there was in the tannin and the 4 wines that we had. All different levels of tannin, and
yeah,
I still remember when you said it has a chalky tannin.
Yeah,
it was a really good description for the wine weeks ago, and this wine has a lot lighter tannin.
Yeah. But it's not necessarily amount, right? It's there, the amount is the same, but the texture, the feel of tannin is completely different, right? This one just feels so much more dissolved into the wine as opposed to some of the other wines that we've had this month. It just seemed a lot more obvious, right? It's there, and it lets the presence be known. And also the fact that Phil, that you can discern that and you can articulate that is making me beam with pride. So, it's fantastic.
And is that because of the age that it's more integrated and kind of softer?
Yeah, For sure. Yeah, it's definitely the age. Yeah. And that's part of another reason why you age wine. Like, for example, and as most of you know already, Barolo Barbaresco, old school Barolo Barbaresco, untouchable, inapproachable at its youth, right? It's just so tannic. It'll like rip your gum out. And then as it ages, all that tannin gets integrated and falls out, becomes softer. So yeah, absolutely. So it's not just the complexity reasons, but sometimes it's purely drinkability. Like you just cannot touch it for like 10 years because it's so tannic.
Oh, you'd be so proud of me. My wife for my birthday got me a subscription to. Do you know who Bill at Tail Up Goat?
Yeah.
He started a wine club a couple months ago, apparently, and she bought me a month or two of it.
Yeah.
And I joined the call, and they're tasting this wine, and we're tasting one of the wines, and I'm like, he's talking about the wine. I'm like, wait a minute, does this have carbonic on it? He's like, absolutely. I was like, yes.
Love it.
Thank you.
Love it. Love it. Love it.
It's only taken us 4 years, 5 years.
Les, as a true saying or a very meaningful, impactful saying goes that has impacted my life. Consistency over intensity.
What if we do both?
Oh yeah. I don't know. Is that sustainable?
No, I can say that it's not. That's why every once in a while I take a month off.
Yeah. Yeah, but Bill, I have a lot of respect for Bill. I'm sure his wine club is great. He runs a fantastic wine program. He's a great hospitalian. Yeah, I have a lot of respect for him. It's great.
But his approach is, I think like there's 6 bottles a month, but then there's one night that he talks about them all.
Yeah.
And of course, I want to open them all that night and be tasting along with him. But I'm like, I can't drink 6 bottles in one night, man. Like,
I know that's rough. That's crazy.
But so we had a lot of wine left over. Then we went over to a friend's house and brought a bunch with us. You can make it work, but it's a little.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, open 6 bottles and invite us over. We'll come help you.
Yeah. Yeah, Dave, invite us over. I did think of that.
Also, not to bring the room down or in any way, but I spoke with Marty last week, and France is restarting her chemo. The tumor has come back in the aspect, so she's going back in for a therapy. And seems like, I mean, they're still in a limbo, not trying to figure out like when that exactly is going to happen and all of that. But Marty sounds real lonely. So I'm thinking about organizing a trip up there soon. So if any of you are interested in coming up to Annapolis for a day, I'm sure he would love to see your faces and open up some crazy old bottles and drink some wine with us. I think you would like that. So I'll keep you all posted. I'll send an email out. But yeah, just know that it's coming. Also, on a completely different note, if any of you guys are available in town on Saturday, and if you're a carnivore, I'm thinking about getting some people out to Honey Pig in Annandale to go eat some Korean barbecue. So if anybody want to join, let me know. Hit me up. I am doing.
I have to tell you real quick. So I have some friends who are like new to town. They moved to Maryland. They're like, gotta show you this Korean spot we discovered. There's a Honey Pig in Rockville or like in Maryland that has like no line, no wait. If I go to Annandale, it's like 2 hours. So think about the Maryland one because it's
unless you come with this guy, then you don't.
Oh, right. You don't know. And for everyone else out there, there's a shorter line in Maryland.
There's one in College Park too now.
Yeah, the College Park is the latest one that they.
That's the one I'm thinking of. It's in Maryland. It's like no line at all. Like a totally different.
Yeah, they just opened the College Park like a month, maybe 2 months ago, and they're fucking killing it. These college students It's like $45 for all you can eat Korean barbecue, and they're eating that shit up.
They actually are probably losing money on that deal. I don't know if that's good for honey.
Oh no, well, yeah, I don't know how much meat they're going through, but they're doing like almost 20 grand per day in sales. Like, what the fuck?
It's, it's pork.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But if everything goes well, the reason I'm going on Saturday, so Honey Pig is they wanted to do a private label wine, so I'm consulting, I'm helping them do a private label wine for Honey Pig. Ben Jordan in Virginia is going to make the wine. So I'm getting there to go pick up some meat and some key sauces on Saturday, and I'm going down to Charlottesville or Waynesboro on Monday to do a blending trial for their wine, and just want to make sure that like their shit, flavors don't clash and all of that. So if all of that goes well, if you guys go to Honey Pig later this year, you will see a Honey Pig their own wine made by, well, I didn't make it, but brokered by yours truly. So anyways, just putting it up there. But yeah, if you guys want to come eat some Korean barbecue on Saturday, hit me up. Get a crew together, we'll eat some meat. I'm sure we can even bring some wine if you want to. Or drink some soju. I don't know. But it'll be a good time. Turn off the